When I was younger, I had a friend who lived in one of those old houses on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that always seemed a little off. It had that dark, ornate wood trim on the walls, and the basement walls were made of rough field stone. There was always a strange stillness to the place, like the house itself was holding its breath. Even as a kid, I could sense something wasn't quite right about it, though I couldn't put my finger on what it was at the time. It was a feeling that stuck with me, one that I couldn't explain away, but I never talked about it with anyone, not even my friend. We spent hours there, running around the place, playing games, and laughing like kids do. But there were moments when that unsettling atmosphere would creep in. It wasn't something I noticed at first, but looking back, I now realize the house always felt like it was waiting for something, or someone. I'll never forget one particular day, though, when something happened that I can't forget no matter how hard I try. I had been over at my friend's house for the afternoon, just hanging out in the living room. The room was filled with the usual old-timey furniture, and sunlight filtered weakly through the dusty windows. Nothing unusual about it, really, until my eyes caught the sight of an old painting hanging on the wall near the front door. I'd seen it countless times before, yet this time something about it drew me in. The painting depicted a boy sitting on a wooden rocking horse. The boy had a strange, unsettling grin on his face, one that seemed to stretch unnaturally, as if it wasn't quite right. His arm rested lazily on the horse, but his other hand was raised beside his head, almost as if he was trying to wave or signal something. For a moment, I couldn't pull my eyes away from it, though I couldn't say why. And then I noticed it, the thing that made my skin crawl. There was a tiny air bubble in the paint right above the boy's hand. It was the size of a marble, and the shape was unmistakably like a knife. It wasn't part of the painting's design. No, it was an imperfection, an addition, something that didn't belong. It stuck out from the surface, protruding slightly like a scar that shouldn't be there. I pointed it out to my friend, and we both stared at it for a long time, unsure of what to make of it. My first thought was that it was just an odd flaw, maybe caused by the painting's age, but it didn't seem like a simple imperfection either. The shape of it, the way it almost seemed too perfect, too deliberate, it made my stomach twist with unease. My friend didn't seem bothered, though. He just shrugged and said, "Weird stuff happens here all the time, but I've gotten used to it." I didn't know how to respond to that, but it sent a chill down my spine. That day passed and I went home, trying to forget about the odd painting and the strange feeling it gave me. But the next day, when I came back to hang out again, something was wrong. The knife-shaped air bubble was gone. Not faded or blurry, just completely absent. It was as if it had never been there at all. And the boy in the painting? His grin was gone too, replaced by an unsettling blank expression. He no longer looked like a child having fun. He looked like a still, lifeless figure, staring blankly at something far beyond the frame. I couldn't make sense of it. How could the painting change like that overnight? Was I imagining things? It felt like something had shifted, like whatever presence had been there before had moved closer. But just as quickly as it had appeared, the feeling faded. The painting was just a painting again. I tried to ignore the unease that settled over me, chalking it up to my overactive imagination, but the change stuck with me. Then, one evening a few years later, I found myself back in that same house again, this time babysitting for my friend's family. I was alone in the living room watching TV and trying to distract myself from the growing sense of dread that had settled over me every time I was there. It was a quiet night, or so I thought. That was until I heard the doors upstairs start slamming. At first I thought it was just the wind or maybe the house settling, but the slams grew louder and more forceful. Bang, bang, bang. The sound was unmistakable, and I could feel my heart race. I had to check it out. I couldn't just sit there and pretend nothing was happening. So, gathering what little courage I had, I headed upstairs to investigate. Every door was wide open. I checked each room one by one, making sure no one was there. But that was when I heard it. something that made my blood run cold. The family's dog, a large, usually calm golden retriever, was standing at the front door, staring at it with wide, fearful eyes. The dog was still rigid as a statue, and it growled low in its throat, but it wasn't angry. It was scared, almost like it was watching something it couldn't understand. I froze, unable to move, as the tension in the air grew thick. Something felt wrong, so wrong. It was like the house itself was holding its breath. And then, just when I thought I couldn't handle the silence any longer, my eyes were drawn to the basement door, the one with the small window, leading down into the dark depths of the basement. I don't know why I looked, but I did. Through the window just beyond the door, I saw something that made my heart stop. It was a face, a boy's face. It wasn't a person peeking through the window, or even someone standing at the bottom of the stairs. No. The face was hovering there, just past the glass, as if it had materialized out of the dark, cold air. It was staring straight up at me, its eyes wide and unblinking, its mouth open in a silent scream. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The face, the boy, wasn't supposed to be there. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. It didn't fade away or turn away. It just disappeared into thin air. I couldn't stay in that house any longer. My legs were shaking, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what I had seen. I didn't know if I had imagined it, but it didn't matter. That house had changed, somehow. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was a place full of things that shouldn't be, full of things I didn't want to understand. After that night, I couldn't bring myself to go back to that house. The feeling of unease followed me, and I couldn't escape it. It was like I was haunted by something that wasn't there, but at the same time, was always there, waiting. I'm not sure what happened to my friend's family after that, but I never heard from them again. The house was just quiet, and I never stepped foot inside it again. I don't know if anyone ever lived there after that, or if the house still stands, but I do know one thing. Whatever it wasn't just the house that was occupied. There was something else, something that had been watching, waiting, and playing all along. The boy in the painting, the boy in the